What's going on, guys, and welcome to another Doctor Who Series 12 review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Series 12 Episode 10, The Timeless Children. Yes, it is the final episode of Series 12, Part 2, or also in a way kind of Part 3, but I'm counting it, I think, as Part 2 of the two-part finale. It's got a lot to do. It had a lot to do, and I think it answered most of our questions. I don't think it necessarily answered everything, but it answered most of our questions. So yeah, a lot to get into here. I have a feeling this may be a little bit longer than some of my other reviews because there is a lot to talk about here. But let's get straight into it with the cast. So we'll start, of course, with Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor. Now, a bit interesting, really, because this was a very much Doctor-focused episode, and obviously with it being the last episode of the series, you expect the Doctor to be quite used in it. And I mean, she's in the episode quite a lot, but at the same time, because there is so much going on, and just with the nature of what's going on, she doesn't actually do a whole lot in this episode. She really doesn't have much dialogue. She's basically silent for the first, 20 minutes or something, 20-30 minutes. She barely says anything throughout those first 30 minutes or so, but when she does start talking, when she starts going off at the Master, by the way, spoilers for this video, massive spoilers, I will be going over everything in this episode, so yeah, there are massive spoilers for not only the Timeless Children, but just Series 12 and just Doctor Who in general, to be honest. So yeah, spoiler warning if you didn't already know that. But yeah, when she's going off at the Master, she is great. This is my favourite performance for Jodie by far. She's finally not silly. A couple of moments here and there, but I think they're alright, they work. But she's a lot more serious, and she gets really angry. That moment where she throws the Master down to the floor because he's not telling her what she wants to know. It's a different side of this Doctor that we haven't seen before, and yeah, we need more of that. Jodie, I think, for me, she's now the Doctor. I mean, she'd kind of got that way in this series. Definitely had her moments, but I can definitely 100% now say that yes, she is the Doctor. She smashed it out of the park this episode, I think, with what she had, and yeah, just generally really enjoyed her performance this week. So for the companions, Bradley Walsh as Graham O'Brien is pretty good in this one. I'm going to be honest, the companions don't have the most to do in this story. Once again, kind of like last week, they have enough to kind of keep them going, but they don't really do that much, to be completely honest. It's a lot more focused on the Doctor, the Master, and somewhat also the Cybermen, but mainly the Doctor and the Master. But yeah, he's good in this episode. He has a really nice moment with Yaz, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, really good stuff from him. Same goes with Yaz. She has quite a lot of good stuff here. Maybe the standout of the episode. I'd say she probably is the standout. And for me, in a lot of ways, I think Yaz has been the standout for this series. So when Chris Chibnall, I think he did mention at the end of Series 11 that Yaz would be a lot better for Series 12, have a lot more to do. I can definitely agree with him on that. I do agree. Yaz has had a hell of a lot more to do this series, and she's just so much more of an interesting character now. And yeah, she's good in this episode. Tosin Cole as Ryan. Yeah, he's good. He's fine in this one. To be honest, he's really taken a backseat this series, I feel, for the whole series, really. He has his nice little moment where he throws the ball, he throws the bomb at the Cybermen, and it's kind of like a basketball. You know, you have that whole dyspraxia thing going on there, kind of a full circle of that. So it's nice to see that get resolved, but apart from that one moment, Ryan doesn't do a whole lot in this story. He's okay. He's definitely my least favourite of the three companions, though. I can definitely say that for sure now. But yeah, he's fine with what he's got. And then, of course, I couldn't go without mentioning Sacha Dhawan as the Master. Oh my goodness. I'm going to say it. Sacha Dhawan's Master, he is my favourite Master. Not only of the new series, but of the old series, he's my favourite Master altogether. Bearing in mind I haven't seen a lot of Roger Delgado and Anthony Ainley, especially Roger Delgado. But yeah, from what I've got so far, he's definitely my favourite new series Master, at least. He's got this quality to him. He's a bit insane. He's very insane, but he's got this unhinged thing that John Sim had, but maybe went a bit too far with it at times. Whereas I don't know how to explain it, but there's just a certain way that Sacha Dhawan performs in this one, the way he's written as well, I think. It's just the perfect blend of insanity anger, and just a little bit just crazy, like he's just, I mean, insanity and crazy, it's kind of the same thing, but there's just a certain thing with his master that just I love so much. And for me, although I do think that this was Jodie's best performance of the series, sadly, in a way, I think Sacha Dhawan outdid her in this episode. Jodie has her best performance, but he still outdoes her because he was just so brilliant in this story, really. Some great stuff with him. I love his master so much. I hope we see him again. Alright, let's get into the juicy stuff now, the good and the bad, starting with the good. The Doctor and the Master's chemistry throughout this whole episode is brilliant. Like I said, both performances I think were on top form for Jodie and Sacha in this episode. They were both on top form for their performances, and yeah, played off each other really well. Just generally really good stuff between them. I love having a great Master and Doctor chemistry. We had it with, I think, Tennant and Sim had pretty good chemistry. You've got Capaldi and Michelle Gomez. They had a really good chemistry with each other. And yeah, definitely, I can definitely say that Whittaker and Dhawan have that chemistry too. They just really do. Honestly, in a lot of ways, I think they have the best chemistry, at least of a new series Master Doctor duo. It's just an amazing thing to behold. And I'm really happy about that because I have been a bit iffy, mainly about Jodie this series, but you put her with Sacha, and although I think he does outshine her a little bit, yeah, they're both really on top form. They bounce off each other so well, and generally it's just so engaging to watch them act alongside each other. It's just so amazing. I love it. I love the little callback to the Deadly Assassin, when the Master was in the courtroom or the President's room, whatever he was in. And he's like going over things that have happened. He's like, well, I remember we assassinated President here. And, that was a callback to The Deadly Assassin, which is actually my most recent classic review. So that's, oh no, it isn't. Battlefield is my most recent but one classic review. So that's just funny timing there, but I liked that. Nice little callbacks. I always like those. Like I mentioned before, Graham and Yaz talking, I thought was really good. Graham just telling Yaz, saying to Yaz, you're so brave, you're so kind, you just do things, and it's just, you don't have a time machine, you don't have all this, you don't have a sonic screwdriver, but you're the most incredible woman in the world, is basically what he says. And yeah, I really like that moment between them, because Graham and Yaz haven't had a whole lot going on throughout these two series. Towards the end of this series, kind of from Praxis onwards, they've formed a bit more of a relationship and just had more time with each other. And I really enjoy it because, for me, they are the two standout companions by far for this era at the moment. Yeah, I was really happy to see that moment, and I love, when Yaz says back to Graham, "You're not such a bad human yourself." I love Graham's, response, like, not a bad human, is that all I get for saying all those words to you? That's just a classic Graham thing to say, and I love it. Yaz, Graham, and the other two humans pretending to be Cybermen, should I say. Yeah, I like that moment, I really did. I don't know how I feel about, because I like how they acknowledged, first of all, when Yaz mentioned, oh, we could get in the cyber suits and, try and trick them into thinking we're Cybermen. I like how they mention the whole thing of, do you know what it's like inside a cybersuit? It is not nice. It is nasty in there, human remains and everything. I'm very, very happy that they addressed that, because if they didn't, I would have been like, this doesn't, it doesn't work. There's no connection there. It's just like, oh, cybersuits, we're in them now. I like how they addressed the whole thing of there is a human, or at least parts of a human, inside this thing, and I like how they addressed that. At the same time, though, it is a bit iffy here and there, like what happened with Clara when she was inside a Dalek in the Witch's Familiar. I just don't really know how that works, because, a Dalek is a little squiddy looking thing. The Dalek casing it's kind of facilitated for that creature. How do you get a human in there? I mean, I can believe it a bit more with a Cyberman because, they were humans, but at the same time, I thought the whole thing with Cybermen was that they were kind of chopped up bits of humans, so you can't just, put the suit on. But I mean, hey, these are different Cybermen, we haven't seen these Cybermen before, so I can I can totally believe, and I'm totally fine with believing that they can just put a suit on and it works like that. I'm okay with that. The Doctor seeing the origins of Gallifrey inside the Matrix. So she sees the whole thing. I loved the whole thing with the Master explaining to her while in the Matrix. By the way, having the Matrix back again, awesome. Once again, kind of a thing back from Deadly Assassin. I think it's probably been used after that as well. But yeah, just going in the Matrix, awesome to see that back. But the Master kind of showing her through it, and seeing how Gallifrey was formed. There was this lone child, a traveler from Gallifrey. So there was a person on Gallifrey who traveled somewhere, found this child who had the ability to regenerate. People on Gallifrey didn't have the ability to regenerate. Went back, tested on her, managed to find out how this child did the regeneration, used it on herself, made it so that she could regenerate, and then they built the civilization and built the Time Lords because of that. In a lot of ways, I liked having the Time Lords and just Gallifrey in general as kind of not that explained. We didn't really know what it was about, but at the same time, I'm actually really happy with that as a concept. I find that quite interesting. I do. With who they've chosen to be the Timeless Child is another thing that I'll get onto, but generally just as a thing, yes, I buy that. I'm fine with it. The time lapse of the Citadel being built within that kind of, within that Matrix scene was awesome. It was an awesome time lapse with the Master talking over it. Yeah, the budget for the show is just so good now. I love the new budget for these last two series. It looks amazing now, and that whole time lapse was beautiful. The Master miniaturizing the lone Cyberman I thought was really kind of funny and cool. As soon as the lone Cyberman was, because this Master was talking to him about how, you've got this thing inside you to wipe out all organic life, what are you going to do with it? The guy, why won't it leave you? And the Cyberman's like, it won't leave me until I die. And I just love how the Master's like, oh, okay. Just slowly starts walking away and then turns around, miniaturizes him. I knew that was going to happen, but I still really liked the moment. I really like how they did that, but at the same time, it did kind of, make the lone Cyberman look a bit shit. It was a bit of a shit way for him to go, but I still generally liked it. I especially liked it when, because he's metal, he hit the floor and you could hear like the metal. It was like you dropped a screw on the floor or something. So yeah, I can overlook it. I did quite enjoy that. Time Lord Cybermen is an interesting concept, which I was not sure about, but then I was like, yes, I like that. Because the Master's killed all the Time Lords, he kept the bodies around, so yeah, I mean, he managed to make them into Cybermen, and the Cybermen can now regenerate. I love how he does a demonstration. He gets one of the Cybermen to shoot one of the others, falls on the floor, dies, regenerates, and then just gets back up again. I thought that was amazing, and generally the Cybermen looked really cool although a little bit goofy, but still pretty cool in the kind of Cyberman robe sort of headpiece things. They looked pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. And then finally, the Judoon put the Doctor in prison at the end of the episode, so everything was all done. The Master got blown up with all the Cybermen by that other guy, and yeah, the Doctor's kind of left her companions. Her companions are gone now, she's on her own, and the Judoon turn up in the TARDIS, manage to, they basically say, you are the fugitive, we're going to transport you to life in prison, and the cliffhanger is her in a prison cell on just some random asteroidy looking thing. So yeah, a cliffhanger is awesome. It looks like it's probably going to be until the end of the year that we actually get a resolution to this cliffhanger, but yeah, it is cool to have something to look forward to there. Alright, so on to the bad. I've had a lot of good stuff to talk about, but sadly there is some bad stuff to talk about, and one of them in particular is a big bad that I have a feeling I'm going to rant a bit about. You know what this is. The Doctor being the Timeless Child. I don't like it. I really feared this when we had the whole Timeless Child thing, and especially with the Roof Doctor thing as well. I was worried, oh god, is she going to be the Timeless Child? And she was. And, after thinking about it a bit, and watching the episode, and just because I generally enjoyed the episode so much with the other stuff that was going on, I'm actually not as annoyed about it as I thought I would be. initially before watching all this, I was thinking if the Doctor's going to be the Timeless Child, and depending on what we didn't know what the Timeless Child was before this, but we found out what the Timeless Child was throughout this episode, and once we knew what the Timeless Child was, then we found out who the Timeless Child was. And yeah, I'm honestly not as annoyed about it as I thought I would be, but I am still annoyed about it. Having the Doctor as such a vital role in the making of Gallifrey, the making of the Time Lords. She is literally the first Time Lord. Every other Time Lord is based off her. And I just don't know how I feel about that. I really don't. I don't like the Doctor being so important. The Doctor should just be, she's just a traveller. She's a bloody good traveller. She helps people out. But yeah, she shouldn't be the pinnacle of everything. And that's kind of what I feel like they've gone down here. Like I said, I don't hate it as much as I thought I would. And honestly, on rewatches, I might soften to it a bit more. But yeah, I've heard the fans are pretty split with this. A lot of people like me are not a big fan on it. I've heard some people that are generally okay with it, which I understand. I mean, to be honest, maybe in time I can get okay with it. The fact that I'm not completely really annoyed with this straight away with such a big thing is telling me that maybe I can come around and actually find this okay. But yeah, currently I think this episode would have been perfect if the Doctor hadn't been the Timeless Child. Here's a suggestion: change up the story a little bit. Have the Master as a Timeless Child. I think that would have worked perfectly fine. Have, I don't know, the Rani or something? Have another Time Lord that we know would have been preferable. Have another Time Lord be the Timeless Child. But not the Doctor. The last character I would have wanted to be the Timeless Child was the Doctor. And that's what we got. So, off of that bit of a rant there. A super emotional moment, but it's hard to take the Doctor seriously when she says fam. The whole moment where she's saying goodbye to the companions because she's got to go blow up the Master and the Cybermen. She's got to do it herself. She goes away from the companions, and it's a really sad... I love the moment. It's a really emotional moment. But then she just kind of says, you guys are my fam, and it's still emotional, and I'm thinking, fam doesn't sound very... It just doesn't fit. Just saying, you guys are my fam, it just doesn't fit for me. It just really kind of put me out of the moment. It's just one of those things that I don't like about this era and this Doctor calling them fam. I just don't like it. And then the other thing, which is a very minor thing, but it just kind of annoyed me a bit. The Doctor saying what was a complete rip-off of the 10th Doctor scene at the end of, what was it, Last of the Time Lords? The whole what thing, like with the Titanic. It was literally the same. She said it 3 times. It was the same. It ended the episode, and it's just the exact same as that 10th Doctor moment. And for me, it's too close that it doesn't feel like, oh, look, we're paying homage to this. It feels like, no, you're just kind of ripping it off. So, a rating for the Timeless Children. It's difficult. Honestly, right now, I'm still going to give it an 8 out of 10. Because the things that I liked about this episode, I really liked. The Master was perfect. The Cybermen, although maybe a little bit underused in here, when they were doing stuff, were perfect. I loved the whole... I generally loved the whole thing of the Master showing the Doctor the origins of Gallifrey and the Timeless Child and everything. I like the whole concept. I just don't like that it was the Doctor that was the Timeless Child. That's the only real issue. The other couple of things that I was mentioned in the bad were real nitpicks that, honestly, if they were still there but the Timeless Child thing was different, it wasn't the Doctor, I would have quite easily given this story a 10 out of 10, this episode. But it's such a big thing that I have to drop it down to at least an 8. But the fact I'm only dropping it down that much says how good some of the good stuff was in this episode, because it really was good. I enjoyed this episode a hell of a lot, even with the whole Timeless Child thing, which I wasn't a fan of. I'm hoping on rewatches I can kind of overlook it and give it a higher score, because I generally do really enjoy watching this episode. I can't wait to watch it for a second time when I do. And yeah, so an 8 out of 10 for the Timeless Children. Oh, one thing I will actually mention, I didn't talk about Brendan. The whole Brendan thing was a little bit of a meh. I mean, we kind of got a bit of a flash to him And from what we can tell, it's the Doctor again. He is the Doctor before she got her mind wiped. But I kind of saw, I can't remember who it was now. I think it was, I actually cannot remember who it was. But somebody on a video that I watched said something about they think Brendan wasn't necessarily an incarnation of the Doctor, but was just kind of a representation of things that the Doctor had done. So, you know, the thing where he falls off the cliff, that was kind of a representation of the Timeless Child when she falls off and first regenerates. And, you know, these different things, it was just kind of a general look at the timeline of the Doctor before she was the Doctor. And I actually think that's a really, if that is the case, I actually really like that as a theory. So yeah, the whole Brendan thing, although maybe left a little bit too open, I did generally think was okay. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.